Namaste, this is Verdeluz from DivineTimingCoaching.com, and so happy to meet with you today. A big day astrologically as Venus in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus. But not only that, Mercury is in Libra squaring Pluto in Capricorn, about to go retrograde on the 27th. So the exact same day we have these exact transits that are quite challenging for relationships, as Mercury is in the sign of Venus, Libra. And want to break these down for you and see how we can navigate these more consciously. We have been sort of initiated in a big way in the last week with our relationships because, first of all, let's look at Venus. Venus is in Scorpio. Now, Venus is the goddess of love and beauty and harmony and order. She rules things like aesthetics, creativity, money, values. And here she is in the sign that ancient astrologers called exile, the sign that is traditionally where she doesn't function in a way that feels as comfortable for her because she naturally rules the sign of Taurus. And in Taurus, she can be very pleasant. She can be in nature and sensuality and a feeling of a lot of abundance and beauty. And you think of the springtime and how we feel in our bodies and with the foods and the garden and everything. But now, not only when you think of the Scorpio time of the year, which is about a month from now, but Venus and Scorpio, you start to going into the deep fall, you go into the underworld, you're going into Halloween time or Samhain time, and the aesthetics go into something darker, right? The sense of money and my own resources goes into, whoa, I'm sharing a lot of resources with other people or a partner or business partners, or, I don't know how to necessarily balance my own needs and somebody else's needs, my own values and somebody else's values. So control issues come up and shadows start to rise. And Venus is in the sign of Mars traditionally. Mars is in Mars rules Scorpio in ancient astrology. And so all the Venusian things, like what we love to eat, and should we have a drink or not, right? Alcohol, for instance, how we should recreate, our experience with culture and with nature, what we find beautiful or not. These all have now a Mars flavor to them, meaning there's going to be usually some argumentative quality here, some conflict, some confrontations, something maybe severing even and separating, because this is part of the nature of Mars. So, you go to dinner and you want to share a meal with your partner, but you both want something completely different, and you can't understand why they would even want that, right? Your aesthetics are different, right? Or you're both having very different values on where to put the money that you're spending. And then this brings tension to your relationship. And you start to feel that there's a lot that hasn't been said that starts to need to be said. And what's happened is Venus has been in this square to Saturn in Aquarius. And she's coming out of that now, but exactly opposite Uranus. So Saturn could bring a sense of a kind of wall or a kind of feeling of constriction or limitation of, I want to have beauty in my life and connection and intimacy and sensuality. And then Saturn said, but this is not really the person I want to do it with, or the way I want to do it, or the community I want to do it with. And there's a sense of that tension, that friction, a sense of delay to realizing those desires, or maybe that I just don't want to put in the effort anymore. I don't want to put in the commitment. I don't want this to mature. Or maybe you do. And so there's been some test or obstacle to really see if this relationship, if where you're putting the money and the resources, if your aesthetics, your sense of art too, and what you've been putting your energy towards that way, if it really has bones and structure to it. Now Uranus has come along, and Uranus is the rebel and the revolutionary. So put that with the goddess of love in a sign that she's not so comfortable in. She's already feeling a bit insecure, and the natural pleasures that we usually like, the foods and the drinks and the culture and the art, they don't seem quite as pleasurable. There's something darker or more disturbing or we have almost an underlying paranoia going on. And so then you got Uranus coming in, and Uranus is the great earthquake, shaking things up. We're not sure what's going to come next with our relations, with money. And there can be something that feels very like we're on a roller coaster. And on this roller coaster, we could throw our hands up in the air, but then immediately we want to put our hands back and try to hold on to something, but there's not a lot to hold on to. So we ask why? We ask what's the source of this? And this is Mercury square Pluto right now. Mercury is in Libra. He is in the sign of partnership. So he's saying we must do this work of looking at our relationships and getting honest about it, really finding the truth. What is below the surface? What is not only the symptom, but what is the root cause? That's Mercury square Pluto. We're going into the caves, the places that we may have been afraid of or have been unconscious or in the shadows in our relations. But Mercury square Pluto often can be not so tactful the way that we communicate that, right? Because Pluto can be volcanic. It can be eruptive. It can be like, well, I've been sitting with this for years or months, and now it's just got to come out. It's got to be this hot magma explosion, and it can be very destructive. And also the energy of our words and speech can be very negative, very critical, very paranoid, and quite destructive in our speech. Now, of course, in Buddhism, we have the Eightfold Path, and one of the parts of that path is right speech. And this is a cycle we're really being tested around cultivating conscious communication. And we can practice this in our relationships right now. We can really come into a space from our hearts. We could touch each other in the heart space and say, I really want to be transparent. This is good Pluto work. I want to be vulnerable with you. I want you to be vulnerable with me. I don't want to take everything so personally. It's another thing. I want to open into, like we're discovering this, the depths of this cave together. And we know there's this fire of consciousness somewhere deep, like a treasure in the depths of the cave, right? But in order to find that, we have to be willing to hold our hands to go find that. And you might get scared. I might get scared. We might get excited. It might be thrilling as well. But if we get very dramatic about this, which is very Scorpio and very Pluto, the cycle's in the air right now, we're not going to be able to support each other getting to the truth. And so truth has to be like a spiritual practice right now. And truth is not always comfortable. Now, it's kind of like we're going to de-armor ourselves, right? We want to come to what is a space and a place in our hearts of clarity, and where we feel like we don't have to hide, right? Now, if we don't do this work, then we might actually have the complete opposite. Where like, I don't want to go there because it's gonna the eruption. I don't know how I'm going to recover from the eruption, or we are. So I'm just going to hide. I'm going to be repressing this, and this is when trauma can occur. In Pluto cycles, Scorpio cycles can be traumatic here, associated with our heart, with our communication, our throat center, Mercury and Venus. We have to be very careful too, because this could be a time where we could create some scaras. Some scaras are what we call karmic traces, where we have we intentionally are performing actions that we know are not in alignment with heart, with truth, with conscious intention. So if we are manipulative or overly secretive or lying in some way, deceptive, which can happen with Mercury, Pluto, Venus, and Scorpio, then we can actually create karma, and that is going to have to come back around at some point. And so we really also want to watch how we speak, not only the topics and the approach, but the tone, right? Like sarcasm, right? And tune in to how much of our speech is actually quite critical, negative, judgmental, sarcastic, And then this leads to a kind of point of view, which is very cynical, like, or nihilistic. Nothing means anything. This just feels really lame and dumb. And actually, it feels like we distrust the entire world. Now, what's happening in that process is we're creating separation, which is not really true as you study more of the tantric scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, all the holy scriptures around the world. We know that oneness is the truth. We know that we are interdependent and interconnected. In Shaiva Tantra, we talk about learning to perceive that everything is pervaded by divine consciousness. And one easy practice with this is to realize that anything that you sense, eyes, ears, smelling, right, tasting, seeing, you must do that within your own awareness. So the world is living inside of the awareness. It's not outside. It's not exterior. There is no exterior. Consciousness is primary. It's primal. It's the first. So we can practice tuning in to trying to empathize with others, seeing the world through their eyes. This is good Mercury in Libra work. This is also Venus and Scorpio work, like going into the depths of the feeling of another, right? So we can use and study these great teachings right now. The Tao Te Ching is wonderful for this as well, about learning to flow and being the wise sage, which is not someone who is dividing this and that, judging this and that, but instead, like, exploring into what is, staying curious instead of evaluating from a place of self-righteousness. That is one of our big challenges right now. And it's really big because this is happening generationally too. Because the Mercury retrograde that's coming in on the 27th and the Mercury square Pluto, it's actually hitting a lot of generations. The Pluto and Libra generation, born 1970 to 84, big time getting hit by this. Uranus and Libra generation, Neptune and Libra generation, older. We go into the Scorpio generations being hit by the Venus Scorpio right now. So Venus will transit the Pluto and Scorpio generation, who is 1984 to around 93 or 95. So they're going through an intense, potentially very dramatic situation as well in their relationships. Venus will also transit the Uranus in Scorpio generation, which is roughly about 77 to 84, or 70, you remember here? Mid-70s to mid-80s. And then you have the Neptune and Scorpio generation as well. All of these generations being hit by these cycles right now. And so there's really not too many of us that aren't feeling this. And so we want to use astrology. We want to use esoteric tools, human design, numerology, all these other systems. This is great Pluto work, the esoteric, the occult, to understand what's really going on and to ask the deeper question. And question has the word quest in it. So we're questing into truth. And we need to be unattached to the answer, but more excited about the question. And even if we realize in our relationship that we're not going in the same direction, can we have a ritual separation with each other? Can we honor and acknowledge with dignity, right, all of the places we've explored together, in the world, with each other, in our sensuality, in our consciousness. Gratitude is the antidote, because Scorpio can be such a psychological sign. There's always a problem potentially. Taurus, the opposite sign where Venus lives, it's a sign of abundance. And so we want to bring that gratitude of abundance into the relationships now, and practicing the art of partnership, the art of listening. So I hope this is inspiring to you, that you could move forward with this cycle, deeper knowing yourself in relationship and your partners and your collaborators and your colleagues, and what's important for you, what you're, even socially and culturally, what you have value with your time and your energy and your money. So Again, Berta Luz from Divine Timing Coaching. Namaste, many blessings to you.